Moshe Rabbenu takes the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. He leads them out of Egypt, and he has to give water to the Jewish people and their livestock. And this is earlier in the book of Shemot, so Exodus. And Hashem tells Moshe Rabbenu, he says, come to the Tzor B'charev, come to this rock, take your staff, hit the rock, and water will come from the rock. So he does, and that's exactly what happens. And this is in the early days of their travels, leaving Mitzrayim on the way to Eretz Yisrael. And before they get to Eretz Yisrael, 40 years out, Miriam, his sister, passes away. And the water stops from that rock. So we find out that the water was running in her merit. Right? So now he goes, because the Jewish people come to him, we need water again. So he goes to Hashem. He says, the Jewish people need water. So he says, okay, so take your staff, and then you and Aaron, your brother, the high priest, go and speak to the rock, and you'll get water. So he gathers the Jewish people, takes his staff, he gets Aaron, his brother, they go to the rock, and he says to them, he says, Shimu na hamayrim. Listen here, rebellious people. Hamina sela hazeh noitzi lachem mayim. We're supposed to get water out of this rock for you, right? And then he hits the rock twice. And then a lot of water comes now. And then the people and their livestock are able to now drink this water out of this rock. So then you'd think everybody's happy, but nope, Hashem is very disappointed. And he tells Moshe Rabbenu, he says, Yan, because loihem haimanti, because you didn't believe in me, haimantim bi, lahakdisheni le'ene b'nei Yisrael, and you didn't sanctify and glorify me in front of the Jewish people. Therefore, you won't be bringing them into the land of Israel, the promised land. So it seems like a harsh punishment. Maybe like a tantrum took place and now he's getting punished. But God isn't petty. He doesn't work like that. So we look at Rashi first to understand. So, Lahak Disheni, what does he mean? You didn't glorify me. So he says, She'ilu debartem el asela, had he just spoken to the rock, v'haitzi, and water came out, haisi mekudash le'ene ha'eda, he would have glorified Hashem in front of the Jewish people, right? V'aimrim, and caused them to say, ma'asela zeh, this is a rock, right? She'enu medaber, it doesn't speak, ve'ena shemeya, doesn't hear or listen. It doesn't need sustenance or money or anything like that, or food. Yet it listens to Hashem, it listens to the word of God. How much more so should we be listening to God? So Hashem feels like Rashi says that Hashem feels like Moshe Rabbenu had an opportunity to sanctify and glorify him in a way that would bring awareness to the Jewish people in a real, very, very real way, as if it hadn't already occurred, but to keep that momentum, that they recognize how important it is that they connect to Hashem and follow His will, right? So the next piece I just want to bring was the Ibn Ezra. He says about this this whole ordeal. He says that to him, right? He says he's going to reveal his perspective. Up until the point that I'm reaching, he had shared other people's opinions, and even said, he says, there's opinions that say this, opinions that say that. But here he says, Hanacham ba'einai, in my estimation, Agalenu b'remizus, I'll reveal this in a secretive way, in a hint. He says, Da ki ka'asher yeda ha'chelik esako. In Chassidus, in the Tanya, right? I heard this word from Rabbi Yossi Paltil that in the Tanya, the second chapter is well known. It's one of the most famous verses or phrases in Chabad Chassidus, particularly from the Tanya. It says that the godly soul of a person is a chelik elokai mima'al mamash, is a literal piece of God from above, right? And so in this Ibn Ezra, where he says that ki ka'asher yeda ha'chelik esakol, that this chelik, and with this taich, it means the piece of God within the person, the godly soul, that is yeda, with hakol. Hakol is the everything, and yeda means to know, but to really know, like to be aware. Knowledge, not to just know it, but for it to be, to become internalized, right? To be one with this knowledge. Hakol, with the everything, with the all. That's God, Hashem. Yidabik b'kol, he becomes connected with the kol, with God, with the everything. V'yichadash b'kol oisais u'mayvsim, and he's able to perform wonders, right? V'emes ki Hashem omer l'Moshe u'la'Aaron v'dibartem, but Hashem told Moshe and Aaron to speak to the rock. V'loi dibru ba'avor marivas ha'am im Moshe. He didn't speak to the rock. Instead, the people upset him, and he got angry. So he says, "V'hine ha'chelek chalak," and as a result, the chelek became severed. So what's going on here? There's another piece of Tanya where it talks about the fact that when a person gets angry, they cause the Shekhinah, they cause the godly presence to depart from them, so to speak. And particularly, it quotes a Rambam. It's also quoted in the Zohar that a person who's wise, they lose their wisdom, and a Navi, a prophet, he loses his vision, his prophecy. The thing that makes them great in Jewish tradition is that they're completely mavatal. They remove themselves so much that they become an empty vessel for Hashem to work through them, to operate through this individual. Okay? So what happens when a person gets angry? It's almost like a denial of the oneness and the omnipotence and the power and the greatness of Hashem, of God. To suggest that a person knows better than what God already ordains for them to take place it's an Indian of idol worship, of Avodah Zarah. So that causes that oneness with Hashem to depart from them. Okay, so the chelek chalak, and as a result, v'hika asela, he hits the rock. Yatzamayim, and mayim doesn't go, v'lo yatzamayim, water doesn't come out. Ad shehika pam shenis, until he hits it the second time. Then water comes. Now what's the problem here? He says, if a person is connected with Hashem and they're causing a miracle to happen and everybody sees that it's Hashem, okay, great. But if he's angry and people know that the Indian of anger, or that becoming separated from the oneness of God by becoming angry causes God to leave them, then if they then continue to do a miracle, then the only assumption is that they did it themselves. It's a complete contradiction from the oneness of God. It's the opposite. It suggests that they were able to accomplish this miracle and this wonder on their own, without the help of God. V'hine loy kitchu Hashem. This is why he said, you didn't sanctify me, because you did the opposite. You made it seem as though you were doing it because you visibly were angry, and you yelled at them and said, that you showed that you were angry, and then you did the miracle right away. So what happens? So he says, so Rabbeinu Chananel, he says that the reason why is because the reason why the punishment took place was because he says noitzim. When he says we are going to bring water out of this rock, he says we, right? Beforehand by the tzor, it says Hashem said to come to the rock, and when he did, it says that the elders of the generation of the Jewish people were there, and they saw the cloud of God, the presence of God above the rock. And so when Moshe Rabbenu hit the rock and water came out, they saw that God was there. They knew what it was. But here, it doesn't say that God was there, that they saw his presence, or that Moshe Rabbenu made an announcement that Hashem is there. So he says, and to add to the problem, to the issue, he says the word noitzim instead of yotze Hashem, that God is going to cause the water to come out. He says noitzim, we. So the situation here is the theme is that we are supposed to sanctify and glorify Hashem. Everything that we do has to be l'shem shema. It has to be l'shem shemayim. It has to be for the sake of God. And anytime we have a success or anything like that, we have to all the more so praise Hashem and give Him the credit for everything that happens in our lives.